lounging, son.
Welcome back to another episode of the Comic Lounge Podcast.
Smelling my comic. Smell that news. Smell that. All right, go ahead.
Welcome back. Welcome back, guys. No, you're keeping that. You have to keep that.
No. You do the intro. I was smelling that glorious newsprint. That's what I was doing. Anyways.
You better not edit this out.
I'll not edit that part out, but go ahead. Intro.
All right. Welcome back, guys. This is another episode of the Comic Lounge Podcast where we sniff comics and talk comics. And I am your host, I'm your host, Dylan. I'm your host, the Mighty Dylan. And with me, as always, Teenage Mutant Ninja Ryan. And today, obviously, we're going to be talking about the original Eastman and Laird run of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We're talking about the first volume in the black and white classics, which include issues 1 through 3 and the Raphael one-shot, which, holy crap. I'm just gonna get right into it.
Yeah, I mean, you read the black and white classics. I was reading them. This is what I was smelling before we fucking start recording. That's why you said we sniff comics over here, because I love the smell newsprint. I don't think I'm the only comic book fan that is weird like that.
No, I do that too.
But yeah, let's jump into it, dude. You know what? I want you to start because this is your first go round.
Yeah, so. I feel like a jackass. I've never read this. Like my knowledge of the Ninja Turtles has been the movies, the TV shows, the cartoon, my own imagination of making stuff up, playing with action figures.
Yeah,
and this is. I feel I'm beating myself up because I never read this before, and this is magic. I can totally see why this caught the world by storm. Why the whole entire globe had Turtle Mania. How this sparked the phenomenon from like 1980 whatever to 1990 forever.
84 is when the first issue dropped.
Yeah, 1984 to 1990 forever. Like this is some excellent stuff, and
it went through multiple printings. The first few issues. Mine's a fourth printing of number 1. You know what I mean? Like crazy.
And this is like this is like the true glory of like indie comics, right?
Yeah.
Like to just take the world by storm the way it did, and going back and reading it and knowing what I know now about it, that's like, it's easy to see why. It's easy to see how. And I didn't know that, each issue was like 40 pages, like 30 plus pages. I don't know. I don't know the exact number, but 30 plus pages. It's easy. Like, these were big boys. These weren't like, your run of the mill 26, 23 issue comic, 23 page issues. These were like fleshed out stories, all encapsulated into one booklet, like whole stories. So they basically it's basically like a double issue. Like they ran through pretty much entire story arcs within the issue. And this thing, it's crazy to see how much they had fleshed out already. Like, yeah,
I mean, this also is like, anybody that hears about the 80s black and white explosion, this is what started it. This is what made people think like, man, I'm gonna make my own comic. You know what I mean? Like the way that Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird created this was just two comic book fans in a fucking apartment building and in an apartment. I mean, they did it. And it really is like, it's like Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster when they just came up with fucking Superman. They're friends and they came up with the character. Like these guys were friends. They became friends over their mutual love for Jack the King Kirby. They have a huge age gap, right? But their love for Kirby and stuff really is what started, that friendship. And in turn, they created one of the greatest phenomenons in all of fucking pop culture. And they didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, how would you know? How would you know that this little idea that started as like, I don't know if you saw it in yours, but like in my first issue, like they have the very first drawing that they came up with, right? And I'll get it on the screen, which is that, right? Looks nothing like the Ninja Turtle that we get later. And this was a true collaboration too. Like, you sometimes you can't, like, especially in the early issues, you don't know where Laird was, where Eastman was, but they were passing it back and forth. Like, and that to me is just so exciting to hear. Like, they were drawing it together. This is traditional, done on duotone boards, which is what gives you that, like, that texture, right, in the art. And I fucking love it so much. Like, I didn't know what it was when I first discovered this. Like, I was a huge Turtlehead. Like, I'm sure you were when you were a kid, right? I had all the fucking toys. I had the sewer fucking play. I had everything, the vehicles, all that stuff. And I discovered this when I was like 13. I didn't know that it was a comic book. I was in my fucking comic book shop, and I'm like looking, and there was like little kids comics, and they had like the Archie Ninja Turtle comics, and he had some of these. And I was like, what the fuck is this, dude? I start flipping through it, and I'm like, and I think I saw like there was like blood splatter or whatever. I'm like, whoa, this is not like any Ninja Turtle comic book I've ever fucking read. And I ended up fucking seeking out all of them. Now, Laird and Eastman don't do the entire run. They do a good chunk of the beginning, and they come back for the end. I have every issue of this run. I fucking sought it out. I love it. There's moments where it gets really weird, but, you know, like, the first, like, 20 issues are, like, where it's at, dude. I mean, there's, like, the Return to New York storyline. It's just so good. And, you know, like, you see their influences in here, right? Frank Miller being one of the major aspects of it. In terms of, like, you know, Ronin, right? When that book came out. But then also we have a little callback to a character, a Marvel character. Daredevil is a part of the Ninja Turtle origin, right? A kid fucking saves a blind man from the road, gets hit in the head with a canister, that canister bounces off, goes into the sewer, and creates the Ninja Turtles as you know them.
There's a lot of little references here that it's like they're total fans of, like the Car 54 thing. There's the Baxter Building, like you know, there's a lot of little references here that they kind of shoe in there. That's like, that shows you how much you know their fandom of things, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love it. I love it. Like, this is definitely a comic fan's comic. That's what this feels like.
For sure. And, you know, like, being a fan of the show, right? That was my introduction, was the cartoon, right? That's how I learned about the Ninja Turtles. And in that version, Hamato Yoshi turned into a rat.
Yeah.
In this version, the rat was the pet and mimicked his master and learned martial arts. And then when his master gets killed by Shredder and stuff, like, that's where he, you know, he's living in the sewer. The turtles fucking fall down, and he kind of nurtures them and takes them and becomes smarter. And then trains the turtles. And, like, you get everything in this first issue, dude. Like, this is probably one of the best first issues of all time.
Yeah.
And that's why it became such a phenomenon. That's why it became so popular, because, like, there's just so much to love about the book, about the story. And, I mean, I love the Ninja Turtles. I'm a huge Ninja Turtle head. I have the entire first run. I have almost all of the second volume. I have some of the third, a lot of the fourth, and, you know, the current one is the fifth volume. And huge fan of that as well. And I mean, dude, like, Shredder is made to be the main villain in the show. This motherfucker gets taken out
in the first issue.
Boom, done.
Yeah.
So good, so good.
And it's crazy. It's like, you know, within these three issues, I see like the fruition of some of, like, you know, the Turtles' greatest characters, right? Like, you know, we see, oh, well, not 3 issues, but 4 issues, because the Raphael included. Like, we see Casey Jones, we see the Foot Clan, we see Shredder, we see a little bit of Krang, you know, April O'Neil, Baxter Stockman, like, you know, the Mousers. Oh my God, that was like one of my favorite issues. Like, holy shit! Like, the Mousers were always like some of my favorite things. Right? Like,
I know.
Yeah, you could beat them up. You could beat them up easily, but there's like 90 million of them.
Yeah, and that's another thing too that they changed, that was different, right? That they changed for the show. April O'Neil's not a news reporter.
Yeah,
she works with a scientist who's Baxter Stockman. Like, he's like another guy that, like, in the cartoon wasn't necessarily a main villain, but here, like, he's the next main villain, right? Like, we get Shredder, then we get fucking Baxter Stockman, and throughout, like, April, I like this version of April better than the
Yeah,
cartoon.
because she's always been down.
Yeah,
Like
always.
immediately, she was like just totally down.
I love the relationship. Like, I know you've only read this first arc, but like the relationship that April builds with them moving forward, and for like decades after that, right? In the next few volumes that happen, I think she's such a cool addition to the world, and it didn't feel like kind of forced. Like, oh, we got to have this like human to be like kind of be our segue into this world. Like, that's not what she felt like. She literally felt like almost, like the fifth member, and she becomes
Yeah.
that kind of, moving forward. And Baxter's just an evil son of a bitch, and
Baxter Stockman has always been one of my favorite guys. Like even in the cartoon, how they turned him into Baxter Stockman, every time he mutates into the Fly.
the Fly,
like, me.
His voice is so
So
annoying.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like these it's crazy how like from these black and white pages from like meager beginnings, like it literally sparks off this crazy phenomenon. And the thing is, it's like you can totally see why. The storytelling in this is fantastic. The art, holy crap, like it's so hyper detailed, but and you know it's its own thing, you know what I mean? It doesn't draw from anything aside from its own imagination, what like the artist is capable of, right down to the detail of like the texture of the size, to like the clouds, the clouds in the background in the sky. It's like this is very pulp media, pulp freaking comic book here. There was no digital medium for them to color. There wasn't like I feel like coloring comics wasn't the easiest thing to do on this kind of medium back then. So what they did with black and white and shades of gray is like fantastic. This is some of the best art I've seen. Like I even sent you that picture of the turtles fighting the Foot Clan for the first time on the rooftop, and it's just like a big spread page, a big spread panel, and it's just like one of the most like. There's so much going on in one panel, like this one. So much going on in this one panel.
Yes.
Where it's just like, holy crap! You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Jizza Liquid Swords album. When you open it, it's like this whole chessboard and everybody's fighting something. There's like all sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Like this, I feel like that was inspired by something like this.
Yeah, for sure.
Because,
I mean, the level of craft that they came out with, like it's amazing. From the choreography to the fight scenes to the small moments to the character development that they did so early on, giving each turtle their own unique personality. And like it's hard at times, it is hard to tell which turtle you're looking at, right? Because like they always had all red bandanas on covers. Like they didn't all have fucking blue. Like that was the cartoon, because they were like, how are we going to differentiate the turtles on a cartoon? So they added the blue, the orange, and the purple. And Raphael stuck with the red. But you can, that's something I noticed too every time, because I've read these. This is probably like my 20th time reading these comics. Like I've read them over and over and over again, and it's their voices, their personalities, which help you decipher who you're reading, who you're looking at, right? And
every time I read Raphael, he sounds like the movie Raphael to me, where he's like super New York.
oh yeah, all the voices are from the 1990 movie, not the cartoon.
Yeah.
It's the movie that I hear. Yeah. Corey Feldman is Donatello.
And to this day, I stick by it. Friggin' the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie was the Dark Knight of the 90s. I don't care. Like when that movie came out, even my mom was like, that may have been a little inappropriate, because like it was a very dark and gritty movie.
Oh, yeah.
It was more comic book than it was cartoon.
Right.
Like there's used a lot of shadows, there's a lot of violence, like Shredder getting put in a trash compactor. What?
Yeah, like that one pulled more heavily from the comics than the animated series did. And like that's something, again, like I said, the origin is different with like Splinter, right? And that was something that I noticed too when I read the book. I was like, oh shit, like this is from the movie. Like this is why the movie is the way it is. Because I remember seeing it as a kid, and I'm like, that's not Splinter. That's not how he's supposed to be. Like a little kid, I'm like, he's supposed to be a fucking person that turned into a rat. like you have no idea where this moves forward. Like the TCRI building, like the ooze.
Yeah,
You said you saw Krang. Oh, dude, you have no idea what you're in for if you keep reading the fucking book. Like
I'm going to.
it's
I'm like,
than anything that you would have thought is really going to happen. And you remember the Triceratons in the show? Do you remember
yeah,
them?
yeah,
Like, dude, it gets crazy. This book gets fucking insane. Like, there's Usagi Yojimbo shows up at one point, right? Cerebus shows up at one point. Just it's such a great comic book, and it's like watching what it started out as and then what it became, and then you
yeah,
even see, dude, like in the fuck it. Okay, maybe not in these issues, but like they
yeah.
have these editorials, right? Like in the beginning of each issue, and mine are of the multiple printings, and like what is it? Like this one's written by Peter Laird, right?
Mm.
And they're talking about the success, and you, as you read, you just they're talking about more success and more success, and that adds to like that's why I like that I have the single issues is like you see the momentum building. Then you
Mm.
see them announce like, oh, they're gonna make a cartoon, and then like oh, the movie's coming. Like, just like, and it just continues to just fucking amass. And yeah, the first the issues of the main series are phenomenal, right?
Mm.
Raphael was like Michelangelo used to be my favorite, but as I got older, Raphael's who I identified with more because of like his anger. And
I leaned towards Leonardo when I was young because two swords. That's fucking cool. But like,
yeah,
as a developing character, Raphael became my favorite.
yeah, and then that again like that leads me to the Raphael issue, which
Mm.
probably one of my favorite Ninja Turtle comics ever.
Right.
And this Raphael comic that's heavily what influenced the scene in the movie
Mm-hmm.
between him and Casey Jones. And it's continuously like go back and read
Louis
it.
the Slugger, please don't tell me you paid money for this thing.
Yeah. And Raphael, like he's training, and like again, I say like he's always angry, right? And this issue has him like dipping out because he sees that he got super angry, and we see Casey Jones, which the dialogue is totally a product of its time,
Yeah.
totally a product of its time.
Totally, 100%.
But
Like, we're talking about 80s denim vests.
yeah, I mean, like you would be like taste hardwood armpit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like just calling them punks and fucking hair. We got to get these hairballs off the street. Feel the bat of doom creeps. Like, and it doesn't bother me reading back because I can just place myself in this time period. I'm like, okay, this totally feels like in line with what I would have read in that time. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but there's a scene where this woman's getting mugged. This is where he meets Casey Jones for the first time.
No.
I don't know this for a fact. I feel like I should have done the research, but I've always viewed them as Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Like that's how Kevin Eastman looked back in the day.
Wait,
And
the people mugging him?
yeah, mugging the girl. Like that looks like how Kevin
Yeah,
Eastman
totally
looked back
them.
in the day. I'm pretty sure that's Peter Laird. He wears glasses. I mean, like,
That's pretty funny.
I see them at that. That's how I always read it every time I read this issue. And I've read this multiple versions. I have an artist edition of it. I have the original first printing of it, and I've also I think read it. They have a colored version of it. So that's how I. That's how I.
Like the best way to do it is like to interview him and ask him.
I've interviewed Kevin Eastman, but I always forget. Next time I chat him up, I'm gonna ask him for sure. I've tried to get Peter Laird because like I don't see a lot of interviews with him, but that's neither here nor there. But this issue is a real standout in terms of like that first initial run. I love Casey Jones. He's always been one of my favorite like side characters in the Ninja Turtle lore. And
yeah, Casey Jones has been great.
And the friendship that develops between the two of them, Raphael and Casey Jones, that's always been a main thing in Ninja Turtles throughout. I think in this new series not so much, but seeing the relationship develop, watching the scenes that were literally pulled from this comic and then were brought to life in that 1990 movie. It's just really cool. Just from like when he says 4 and he hits him with the fucking golf club and sends Raphael flying, like I just really dig this fucking comic book, dude. This is just one of my favorite comics of all time.
I can see why. There's a nostalgia factor, but like it's overtaken by like how initially good it really is,
Mm-hmm.
and how good it is from the story writing to the art, and once again, and how fleshed out it was for being as bulky as they were to just consist like 1, 2, 3. Each of those issues were fantastic. Raphael's one shot, fantastic. Like I'm really I'm really looking forward to like going forward with this. This is
the Donatello one shot is fucking dope. It's
yeah
it's the most Kirby Ninja Turtle comic book. Like that's where they just let loose on their love for Kirby in that specific issue. And
yeah
there's actually a character named Kirby in
oh
it. And yeah, it's really dope. I mean, I can't wait to hear your thoughts when you continue reading, because I know you're gonna continue. I don't know like how long it'll take you to get through, but I mean, I think you're really gonna dig it. I think the entire first volume of Ninja Turtles, I think it's 62 issues. There's some weird shit in there because like guest artists come in and do some stories. Like Richard Corbin does one. Rick Veitch does a 3-issue a series. Like they have a lot of like cool artists come in and do their version of the Turtles, to where the
right
book almost becomes not an anthology, but it just spins out into some weird directions, and then they kind of tie
right
it off. City at War is the final arc. I think it's a 10-issue arc at the back end of this volume, and it's so good. I think that anybody that, if you're a fan of the current Ninja Turtle comic, you were a fan of the movie, the show, and you've never read this, you definitely have to check this out. I mean, it's
yeah. Like I said, don't be like me and freaking miss out and with like and take so long to read it and discover one of your new favorite comics that you've loved that you never knew you loved. That's like the best thing I could describe it, because everything you love about the Turtles is in here. Everything you love about them is gonna
yeah.
be in here. Everything you loved about the movie is in here. Everything you loved about the characters is in here. Shit, everything you love about freaking indie comics is in this is in the original Turtles run. And I feel like an idiot like for
I
missing out
mean,
on it for so long.
look, I just happened upon it. You know, like I don't think it like I never paid attention in Wizard magazine where the price guide. I'm sure the price guide was there, and I'm sure it talked about it, but I just never knew. I knew they had the Archie Ninja Turtle comic based off the animated series,
Yeah.
but that's as far as it went. I did not know
Yeah.
that there was a comic book, and I think that this is a pivotal moment in comic book history, not just like for Ninja Turtle fans, but like this set off a
The
worldwide
wave
phenomenon. It started off a wave of creator-owned black and white comics. It's the boom of the black and white boom. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, like
it was also the first original like transferable franchise. I mean, think about it. It went from indie comic to friggin' toys to television shows to movies. Like this was literally the archetype for what we have now in the MCU. Literally the archetype, and what comics can be. You know, fucking phenomenons, friggin' global money making phenomenons. But at its core, it starts off as a really good comic.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, you know, they went on to not only take their success and it went there, but like, you know, Peter Laird started the Zarek Grant, which could fund indie cartoonists to get their, like, it would give them money to go publish their own stuff. A lot of great names went through there, right? Like they got the grant. The grant's not around anymore. Kevin Eastman started his own publishing line. Now it lost money, you know, but he started Tundra Publishing, and a lot of big names went, you know, had some stuff through there. Mike Allred with Madman started at Tundra. Fucking Stephen Bissett did some work through there. A lot of big names. Now I mean, looking back, maybe people say it was a failure, but his heart was in the right place. You know, like he brought in a lot of talent. Simon Bisley and him did some stuff. Just some really cool shit came from Tundra. And if it was managed a little bit better, maybe we would have seen, maybe they would have lasted You know, like
Yeah.
I think even The Crow at one point had some books published through Tundra. So,
Yeah.
you know, like Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird were all about helping the next generation of indie cartoonists. And that's a rare thing. That is a rare thing where you see somebody that's successful in the indie scene. They didn't go on to work for Marvel or DC. They stayed indie.
Right.
And yeah, like I mean, I don't consider it selling out, them doing like a cartoon or them doing movies. Like, no, they did what they did. You know what I mean? Like they made their money.
They took
You know?
they took their brand to the next level.
Yeah.
It was
So
always their brand. It wasn't like
exactly.
They sold out. They didn't sell out and make like they just took their brand to the next level. Like it's
exactly. And I think that that's
if you're
important.
sell out, right?
That's an important thing for like indie creators to see. You know, like even all these years later, maybe you don't see the level of success like with Ninja Turtles, and maybe we'll never see that again, and we probably won't. You know what I mean? We probably will not see that level of success from an indie comic book. This is the blueprint on like how to do something you love, but create your own thing, leave your own mark. You don't need to do a Marvel book. You don't need to do a DC book. You can create a comic book because of your love and passion. Do your story, do your thing, and you can be successful. And you don't ever have to fucking work for the quote unquote big two, right? Like you can do your own thing, and it can resonate with people. Like the Ninja Turtles did it, what has been continuing to resonate, going on. How many years is that? I mean, that's fucking over 30 years. Like that's
36
insane.
years.
Yeah, that's insane, dude.
37 years.
That is insane to see that it's still in people's lives. Generation after generation are still affected. We have the ongoing Ninja Turtle book. We have the Last Ronin, which was an old story that Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird developed back in the early days of Ninja Turtles and is now being done, right? And that was heavily influenced again by Frank Miller's Dark Knight. And you know, Frank Miller was obviously a creator that they really both gravitated towards, and Jack Kirby and stuff like that. And I think that going back and reading it again and reading it again, you know, no matter how many times I read it, like there's just, it exudes like that, just excitement and love for comic books that these two creators came together and gifted the world with these characters. And I can't say enough good things about this book. I think that you can't go wrong, even if you're not a Ninja Turtle fan, man. Like you go back and read it, this may make you a Ninja Turtle fan. I love this series. I think that I think this is essential reading for any comic book fan, especially like on the historical aspect. I think that super important.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, it's some fantastic stuff here, and go read it. Go read it.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, like, we don't really need to say anything. I don't think we didn't touch too much on the actual story, but maybe we kind of more talked about like the history of the Turtles. But I think that go experience this book, man. Go experience this book. Share it with your friends. Share it with don't share it with your young kids, but share it with your little bit older kids. It's phenomenal. It's a really good book. Really, really, really good book. And it's easy to get now. I mean, you don't have to get the originals like me, but they got the black and white. Like you read it digitally. I think that IDW has been putting out some good collections with reprinting all the old stuff, and they're readily available. So that's all I got. Ninja Turtles, Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, two of the greatest creators to ever put pencil to paper. And
agreed.
If you're not already following, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. Follow Dylan at The Dillbot on Instagram. Dillbot is dope on Twitter. Like, follow, subscribe. Throw your comments or suggestions down below. And TeePublic link has our Comic Lounge merch on there as well. And on that note, we're out.
Later, buds.